we shall commence our discussion about the three-tier structure of Indian Federation. The Indian Federation is a three-tier structure comprising of the central government at the top, states and union territories in the second tier, and local self-governments, both urban and rural, in the third tier. Local governments play a crucial role in delivery of social and economic services such as education, public health, housing and urban development, and in provision of infrastructure such as power, irrigation and transport, etc. Fiscal status of the local governments is therefore important for overall economic development, particularly for the upliftment of the masses. After studying this module, you shall be able to know functions assigned and corresponding resources available with the local bodies, analyze the type of revenue sources, that is tax revenue, non-tax revenue, and the transfer of resources from higher level governments to the local bodies, understand property tax and how the valuation of property is done to know the base of tax and problems involved in it, understand why octroi is levied and how it creates hurdles in the free flow of goods, analyze transfers of resources to the local bodies. Now, let us study the evolution of local government. Local government in India have a colonial past. These were set up towards the end of the last century to provide relief to the imperial exchequer by financing essential community services out of the local taxation, supplemented by the limited grants for the social services and rural works. Local governments were created as delegated authorities of the central, later provincial government. The framers of the constitution were aware of the Indian heritage at the local level. Accordingly, they provided for village panchayats under the directive principles of the constitution. Thus, Article 40 of the Constitution requires that the state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such power and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. Many state governments attempted to translate this directive principle into practice by enacting the necessary legislation and creating Panchayati Raj institutions known as PRIs. Against this background and with the support of the recommendations of many committees, the need for providing a firm constitutional status for PRIs became necessary. Finally, in 1994, the 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Constitution were passed. These, which provide constitutional status to the PRIs and urban local bodies known as ULBs. As per the 73rd Amendment, the PRIs are the local level institutions comprising of elected representatives entrusted with the responsibility of identifying, formulating, implementing and monitoring the local level developmental and welfare programs in the rural areas. Here, it is useful to note that the entire Indian jurisdiction is divided into general areas, which were later on covered in the 6th schedule and the 5th schedule as per the provisions of the Constitution of India of 1951. The 5th schedule is applicable to the tribal areas in the rest of the country, primarily tribal people residing in forest or hills. It covers tribal areas in 9 states viz. Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa and Rajasthan. This schedule is a historic guarantee to the indigenous people on their right over the land they live in. Parliament of India is empowered to make laws and rules for such areas. For other general areas, respective states are in charge of both the urban and the local bodies and the rural bodies, which were popularly known as panchayats, and they can pass laws and rules for these bodies as well. However, as a major reform at the local level, the Constitution Amendment Act, known as CAA, was passed in 1992 to provide autonomy to these bodies in fiscal matters and for overall way of governance while keeping them under their respective states. The 73rd CAA 1992 was related to the rural bodies. Some states have unitary and other states have 2-level or even 3-level local bodies. The 74th CAA of 1992 was applicable for the urban local bodies. Through these amendments, the Constitution paved way for creation of third tier of governments at a sub-state level. Now, India is a 3-tier polity. Let us now study the functions of local government as per the amendments. Many functions have been assigned to the rural local bodies vide Article 243G and to the urban local bodies vide Article 243W. The core functions assigned include drinking water, roads, culverts, bridges, ferries, waterways and other means of communication, rural electrification including distribution of electricity, health and sanitation and maintenance of community assets. The welfare functions comprise poverty alleviation, housing, education, agriculture and allied functions including land improvement, agricultural extensions and irrigation. Functions related to industries include khadi and village industries, small scale industries including food processing. Finally, the development functions relate to urban or town planning, land use, construction of buildings, urban forestry, fire services and slaughterhouses. Moving on to discuss the revenue sources of these local government. While the above amendments assigned various functions to the local bodies, these amendments did not take care of their revenue sources. The revenue sources of local bodies are limited and could be classified under 4 broad categories, with own resources, assigned or shared revenues, grant in aid and loans. In general, the own resources of the local bodies comprise taxes, fees and other non-tax revenues. Own taxes assigned to the local bodies are property or house tax, professional tax, vehicle tax, tax on the agricultural land, pilgrim tax and tax on animals. The shared taxes include entertainment tax and surcharge on stamp duty. Thus, the assigned revenue contains 2 parts, with tax levied, collected and passed on to the local bodies by the state government, and taxes levied and collected but shared with the local bodies. Non-tax revenue sources comprise regulatory activities such as license fee, commercial activities such as charges for the water or any other public service provided by the local bodies, and fines. The local bodies have both conventional and non-conventional sources of revenue. The former category includes property tax, octroi, tax on animals, tax on carriages and carts, and tax on advertisement other than those put in the newspapers. The non-conventional sources of revenue category covers vacant land tax, surcharge on the land registration duty, water charges, development charges, sewage charges, conservancy charges, building permit fee, trade licensing fee, water supply connection charges, water benefit tax, sewage connection charges, sewage benefit and betterment charges, etc. Grants in aid form an important component of the resources of local governments as per the provision in the 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments. These are generally discretionary and are given by the state government or by the Union Finance Commission and State Finance Commission, either as incentive for tax efforts or for matching the efforts in maintenance of services or for the upgradation of infrastructure. Debt could also be an important source of financing infrastructural facilities with the permission of the state government, subject to the capability to discharge the debt service. Bolstering the municipal bond market could be an important source of debt financing. Let us now discuss some of the important sources of tax revenue for the local bodies. First is property tax. The 7th schedule of the Constitution places the levy of tax on property in the state list. However, the states have assigned this tax to the local bodies. Accordingly, local bodies are authorized to levy, collect and appropriate the tax. Property tax has become one of the key sources of revenue for the urban local bodies in India. The component and nature of property tax varies from city to city depending upon the provisions of the prevailing municipal legislation in the respective states in India. In most states, property tax may include a family of taxes, within it a tax for general purpose or house tax or holding tax, water tax, drainage tax, street lighting tax, sewage benefit tax, education cess, fire cess, tree cess, etc. Property tax is a kind of ad valorem tax, and this is levied on the owners of property based on the value of such property by the local bodies within their jurisdiction. There are provisions for some rebates in the property tax, such as rebate for owner occupied houses for senior citizens, women and physically challenged persons, rebate for early payment, vacancy remissions, depreciation as per the age of building, and rebates for repairs and maintenance. In addition, there are exemptions given in the property tax through which the gross estimated tax base gets reduced. These are based on the factors such as ownership, such as government owned or self-owned property, the use of property like the properties used for the charitable purposes, or on the characteristics of the owner or occupier such as age or disability. Property owned and occupied by colleges and universities, churches and cemeteries, public hospitals, charitable institutions, public roads, parks, schools, libraries and foreign embassies, and property owned by the international organizations which are used for public purpose and not for earning of income are exempted from this tax. In some of the states, agricultural land and principal residences are also exempt. Vacant land is also exempted in some case. Methods of determining the value of property. There are three different methods for the assessment and valuation of property. First is area-based method. Under the area-based method, a charge is levied per square meter of the land area, per square meter of building, or some combination of the two. Where the measure of area is used for land and buildings, the assessment of the property is the sum of assessment value of the size of land and the size of the building. Second is the value based approach. Under the value based approach, either the market value or the rental value of the property is assessed. The municipal laws have generally adopted annual rental value for the assessment of property tax. In this system, the problem lies in determining the rental value of property. The lack of an objective basis to determine the base creates enormous administrative problems. Over the years, several lacunae in this system have surfaced. For instance, obtaining actual information on rent paid poses the greatest practical challenge. Third is the unit area valuation method. Under the unit area valuation method, assessment of annual rateable value is obtained by applying the unit area value to the area of the property. To determine the unit area value, the entire municipal area is divided into more or less homogeneous zones based on various factors such as the cost of construction, the occupancy, type of construction, location on type of road, prevailing market rents, rent control rates usage, availability of existing infrastructural facilities, economic condition of the area, accessibility to the major centers of the city, etc. Various coefficients for each factor are simulated in working out the unit area value for each zone for different type of properties. The UAV method has been widely recognized as a suitable method for valuation and assessment of property tax. Next, the property tax rate varies according to the use of property. Generally, residential property is taxed at a lower rate than the industrial and commercial property, and owner occupied residential property is taxed at a lower rate than the rented property. The local bodies decide their own rate schedule for residential and non-residential buildings. The existing rates indicate considerable variations across local bodies. Assessment of property tax base indicates that in India, this base is narrow and restricted. Assessed value of properties for the purpose of taxation uniformly lags behind the market values. In some places, assessed values are reported to be about 8 to 10% of market values. To reform the property tax, it is required that the information should be collected in the open market on rentals and sale transactions. It is suggested that the Department of Property Tax should involve professionally trained valuers and interact with the Office of Stamp Duty and Registration Fee and with the School of Architecture and Planning for the valuation of properties. Octroi. Octroi is a tax on the entry of goods into the local area for consumption, use or sale. It is collected at the time of entry of goods into the local area at the check post surrounding by that local area. The collection of tax is on the basis of declaration of value of goods carried by the goods courier at the check post. It is not an account based levy. It is a traditionally local commodity tax which provides liquidity to the local governments. In the past, octroi has been one of the most important taxes levied by the local bodies. While there is no specific mention of octroi in the Indian Constitution, entry 52 of state list covers that the taxes on the entry of goods into a local area for consumption use or sale therein. Entry 89 of center list covers terminal taxes on goods or passengers carried by railways, sea or air taxes on railway fares and freights. While there is a minor difference between the terminal tax and octroi, the Supreme Court has considered these levies in a number of cases and pointed out that terminal tax and octroi, though different, are similar to each other in a way as these are levied on goods brought into the local area. Terminal taxes are levied on goods imported or exported from the municipal limits, denoting that these taxes are connected with the traffic of goods. Notwithstanding, the nomenclature octroi is assigned to the states who have in turn given this to the local bodies. However, it is now no longer regarded as a useful levy. In reality, octroi is a wasteful local levy causing enormous production loss due to the hindrance it causes to smooth traffic and trade flows. Also, it is the main cause of rampant corruption as the levy is check post based and not account based. Other local taxes. The major portion of tax revenue collected by both the urban and the rural local governments used to come from the levy of the above two taxes, viz. The property taxes and octroi. However, in recent years, with the abolition of octroi in all the states except in the Mumbai Municipal Corporation and in Maharashtra, property tax has become extremely important. Many of the urban municipalities and rural local bodies of the states levy a number of other local taxes in addition to property tax, which are now gaining in importance. While the scope for collection of user charges by local governments remained limited, many local bodies pursue a form of cost recovery by the way of levying property tax, linked benefit taxes such as water benefit tax, education cess, conservancy surcharges, etc. on the property tax base. Rural local bodies levy some taxes that are obligatory taxes and some optional taxes. These are the taxes on the private latrines payable by the occupiers or the owners of the buildings to which such latrines are attached when cleaned by the Gram Panchayats or the Gram Sabha agencies. Taxes such as light tax, if light arrangements are made by the Gram Panchayat or the Gram Sabha, a tax on a person for exercising any professional or carrying any trade or calling within the limits of Gram Panchayats or Gram Sabha area. The optional taxes, fees, etc. imposed by the Gram Panchayats or Gram Sabha of various states include tax on animals used for riding, driving or carrying load, tax on dogs or pigs payable at the owners thereof, etc. Transfers from higher governments. In addition to the transfers from the states, Central Finance Commission also recommends resource transfer to the local bodies. For the first time, the 10th Finance Commission recommended transfers for the local bodies to supplement the resources of the panchayats and municipalities. Also, the 10th Finance Commission recommended that all the states should have a State Finance Commission known as SFC to recommend transfers to the panchayats and municipalities from the state resources. These transfers may empower local bodies functionally and financially to enable them to fulfill the role envisaged for them in the Constitution. All subsequent finance commissions recommended grants to these bodies, generally on an increasing scale. Also, a special area grant was given by all the subsequent finance commissions except the 14th Finance Commission to the Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. The Finance Commission also urged the Union government to consider a larger, sustained and more effective direct intervention for these areas. Let us now summarize what we have studied in this module. The Indian Federation is a three-tier structure comprising the central government at the top, states and union territories in the second tier, and local self-government, both urban and rural, in the third tier. Local governments play a crucial role in delivery of social and economic services such as education, public health, housing and urban development, and in provision of infrastructure such as power, irrigation and transport, etc. Therefore, the constitutional status for the local government is important for economic development. The constitution framers provided for village panchayats under the directive principle of the constitution. Thus, Article 40 of the Constitution requires that the state shall take steps to organize village panchayats and endow them with such power and authority as may be necessary to enable them to function as units of self-government. Entire Indian jurisdiction is divided into general areas, areas covered under 6th schedule and the 5th schedule as per the provisions of the Constitution of India 1951. Tribal areas comprise part of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, hilly parts of Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, part of Tripura and part of West Bengal. These states covered by the 6th schedule of the Constitution are basically governed by their autonomous districts or regions in the respective states. The 5th schedule is applicable to tribal areas in the rest of the country, primarily residing in the forest or hills, and covers tribal areas in 9 states viz. Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Orissa and Rajasthan. The 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments empowered the rural local governments and the urban local bodies for the development of urban infrastructure. As per the 73rd amendment, the Panchayat Raj institutions are the local level institutions with the responsibility of identifying, formulating, implementing and monitoring the local level development and welfare programs. The state governments should enact necessary legislation to create PRIs and endow them with the financial powers according to the functional responsibilities. Many functions were assigned for the rural and urban local bodies. However, apart from the funds flow from higher level of the government in the form of grant in aid and centrally sponsored schemes, both rural and urban local bodies have meagred tax and non-tax sources. The existing revenue sources of the local bodies could be classified under 4 broad categories, viz. Own resources, assigned or share revenues, grant in aid and loans. Own resources consist principally of the own taxes, fees and the other non-tax revenues. Own taxes comprise generally property or the house tax, professional tax, vehicle tax, tax on the agricultural land, pilgrim tax and tax on animals. Assigned revenues contain 2 parts: taxes levied, collected and passed onto the local bodies by the state government, and taxes levied, collected and shared by the state government with the local bodies. The shared taxes include entertainment tax, surcharge on stamp duty, professional tax and motor vehicle tax in a few states. The sources may be classified as conventional sources and non-conventional sources. Conventional sources of tax revenue for the local bodies include property tax, octroi, tax on the animals, tax on carriages and carts, and advertisement tax, etc. Non-conventional sources of tax revenues include vacant land tax, service taxes, surcharge on land registration duty, water charges, development charges, sewerage charges, conservancy charges, building permit fee, trade licensing fee, water supply connection charges, sewerage benefit and betterment charges, etc. In addition to the tax sources, there are some non-tax sources that are also used by the local bodies. These sources include user charges, municipal fee, sale and hire charges, lease amounts, fees, fines, forfeitures, rents on tools and plants, and other miscellaneous receipts. Property tax is an ad valorem tax levied on the owners of the property based on the value of such property by the local bodies within their jurisdiction. The property tax has some provision for rebate